everyone, how's it going? My name is Harmony Nice and today to introduce you my new series that I'm kicking off right now. By the way, some people were asking if I'm continuing my Enchanted Endeavours series after starting this new series, and yes, I am, of course. This is just another additional series to my channel. Anyway, this will be a new series starting my channel that will be all about unsolved mysteries, so unsolved mystery cases and things like that. Also the most kind of terrifying unsolved paranormal cases, unexplained, of all time. Where a lot of people do the kind of unsolved mystery videos and things like that, I've seen loads and loads of people do them and I really love them, but I thought I would add the kind of paranormal cases element to make it a little bit different for my channel and to kind of suit me a little bit more, because I'm super interested in them both. I think you guys will be too. This is kind of a tester episode, so thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoy this video. If you do enjoy this first episode of this series, please make sure to give it a like and let me know down below if you'd like me to continue, because I would really like to continue with this series. To kick this series off, I'm going to be discussing the extremely sad and super strange disappearance of Robyn Gardner. So Robyn was only 35 when she disappeared on August the 2nd, 2011 from a place in the Caribbean called Aruba. Robyn was a dental assistant and also an aspiring model, and she lived in Maryland in the United States. And from what I'm aware, she lived with a roommate called Christina Jones and she had a boyfriend called Richard Forrester. So on July 31st, Robyn was due to go away and she had told her boyfriend Richard that she was going to visit her parents in Orlando, which was supposed to be a trip to kind of clear her head after apparently losing her job as a dental assistant. So I'm not 100% sure it's true or not, but actually she was not planning to go see her parents at all. She was actually planning to go meet her 50-year-old lover, Gary Giordano, I think it's pronounced, who was a divorced father of 3 and a quite well-known businessman. And he had asked her many times before to go away with him loads and loads of times, but she had actually declined up until this point. And nobody knew about this lover other than her, and apparently her roommate had known that they had been speaking, but actually her boyfriend Richard thought that Gary was a gay friend of hers. That is what she told her boyfriend. And apparently her roommate had massive reservations about her taking this trip because she had really bad vibes about Gary. She said that he had sent abusive text messages to her before, just really wasn't on board with her going away with Gary. Her plan to go on this trip was obviously to go meet her lover Gary and kind of party and drink and do all that sort of stuff that you do on holiday anyway. So the day after she went away, on Monday the 1st of August, she had told Richard that she was supposed to have her ride at her parents' house on that day, and her boyfriend Richard called her on this day, and apparently he instantly knew something was off because the call definitely sounded like it was an international call, and he knew something weird was going on because it was super crackly, and he just knew that she wasn't in the country. And she had to go because the phone service was super crackly. But apparently later on that day, Richard received an email from Robyn telling him that her parents had actually surprised her with a trip to the Caribbean and they were going to Aruba, and that's where she was. So he did actually know where she was at this point. So according to sources, on the day of Robyn's disappearance, which was on August the 2nd, Robyn had waken up and she had taken sleeping pills because she couldn't sleep that night. Some people said that she did it as like a kind of fix sort of thing, and other people said she literally just couldn't sleep because it was super hot. And it's not too certain what happened in the morning of that day because the time scales here are super complicated. But around 2:05 a.m, so the morning of her disappearance, the really early morning, Robyn's boyfriend Richard received a Facebook post on his wall from Robyn saying, "This sucks, just this sucks," posted onto his wall. And Richard wrote back to her on this Facebook post saying, "Inbox me," but there was no response. And then 10 hours later, Richard once again wrote on the Facebook post saying, "Where are you, baby?" And there was still no response. So throughout that day, he kept trying to message her and trying to message her until around 3 p.m. this afternoon, where Robyn sent Richard another message basically saying, "Don't worry, I care about you, I love you, and we will sort this out when we are back." And apparently this was because they had a little bit of an argument before they left, but it wasn't really anything that extreme according to Richard. According to witnesses, going back to Aruba where Robyn and Gary were on holiday, Robyn and Gary were spotted in Aruba around the area in a restaurant called the Rum Reef Grill and Bar in the Baby Beach area of the island. And according to the people and the staff that worked at the restaurant, apparently Robyn seemed extremely drunk and she was a bit woozy and seemed intoxicated, and she barely touched the food that she ordered. There's different sources saying different things. Some staff members said that the couple definitely seemed like they were together. Other staff members said that they seemed a little bit off with each other, like they didn't seem like they were together. So Robyn and Gary left the bar around 4 o'clock, and the security footage of the bar and grill shows the last ever picture of Robyn ever leaving the bar together. And then 2 hours later, Gary had returned to report that Robyn had disappeared and that they needed to call the police. So according to Gary, what had happened is that they had left the bar and they had decided to go into the water and go snorkeling together, which is super, super weird to me. Firstly, because she was intoxicated. Obviously, everybody said that she seemed like she was woozy and intoxicated. And some of the waiters said it was super, super suspicious since she seemed really, really well put together and she didn't look like she was going to go snorkeling after that. She had like a full face of makeup on, she was dressed up and her hair was done and things like that. And they just said it didn't really seem like the couple were going to go snorkeling after that. And another weird fact about this is that later on, Robyn's boyfriend actually stated that she hated water sports and that she had really, really expensive hair treatments done where she wouldn't want to get her hair wet because it would ruin them, and she didn't like going into the water like above the waist because she didn't like to mess her hair and makeup up and things like that. According to the pair, Gary had driven to the beach, and when they got onto the beach, Robyn went straight for the water and Gary went to the car to get some towels, and by the time he had turned around to get the towels from his car, Robyn was already in the water up to her waist, and Gary then laid the towels down and laid on the towels. And apparently he didn't get into the water, but soon after Robyn came out of the water and he'd noticed that there was some blood on her foot, and she laid down, and according to Gary, he didn't speak to her because she just laid down and kind of closed her eyes and he thought that she had gone to sleep. And after a while, she jumped back up and asked him if he wanted to go snorkeling or he wanted to go back to the hotel, and he agreed to go in with her, and she went in first and Gary followed. Apparently the couple kind of kept snorkeling and kept going further and further out into the sea, and Gary forgot to take his tennis shoes off, so he was getting a little uncomfortable as they were going further out into sea because the currents were quite high and the waves were quite rough. They got quite far out and Gary began to notice that they were a bit too far out and the currents were really, really strong and it just wasn't really safe for them to be snorkeling. And it's not very clear what they actually did and what he did to kind of get out of the water, but apparently he signalled to her in the water that they were too far out and she agreed, and he then began to struggle back to shore without even thinking about it, and he said his legs were like weights and he began to panic and he felt like he was getting dragged down and all he could think about was making his way to the shore. And once Gary makes it back to the shore, he stated that he was just kind of expecting Robyn to be following him and laughing at him for keeping his tennis shoes on, but when he turned around to look where Robyn was, she had completely disappeared. He couldn't even see a snorkel or any evidence that she was there. He said it was like she just disappeared into thin air. And he decided not to go back into the water because he said that if he had gone back into the water, he would have probably drowned. This kind of all happened around 4:30. So after that, Gary returned to the bar and grill around an hour and 45 minutes after this happened, apparently, till 6 p.m, where he was kind of in the security footage making himself known. He was tapping on the windows and things like that, tapping on the shutters, and then he didn't actually go into the kitchen to report her disappearance until 6:20 p.m. And like I said, according to Gary, apparently she disappeared not long after they actually left the restaurant or something like that, which is super, super strange because there seems to be like an hour and 45 minutes missing where he kind of couldn't really explain what he did. I literally tried to look into so hard on what his excuse was for this kind of missing time period, and the only kind of excuses that I found for him was that he was looking for her and driving around for her looking for her. Other than that, I literally couldn't find any other logical explanation why he had gone missing for so long. I also read from a few sources that apparently he ended up calling 911, and the bar staff said that he was super, super calm when he made the call and he was just really, really unfazed by it. And Gary ended up taking part in 4 police interviews, and apparently he helped search the beach twice, and they got around 60 like operatives to search the beach for Robyn. And again, it's not very clear how many times the policemen actually ended up searching the beach, but after all the searching, they literally found no traces of Robyn. They did find blood on a rock near the scene, and they brought in deer dogs, and still there was no traces of Robyn. They couldn't find anything. And again, I looked into whether the blood was tested and it was actually hers, and there was no actual evidence on whether the blood was hers or not. The only thing the police did find was some sandals and a pink t-shirt, which once again, Gary or anybody else couldn't identify whether it was actually Robyn's or not. I just think is again super weird and sketchy, and there was just kind of no evidence of her being there, no body found, nothing like that. And after they had done the searches and they couldn't find a body for anything, which is when they decided that foul play was involved and it was not just an accident. And the only other kind of tip that they got from where Robyn could possibly be was later on. Again, I couldn't for the life of me find the exact date on when this happened, but they got an anonymous tip saying that she was buried in a dog's grave dug up by her lover, who taped a plastic bag over her head. And the police searched again the whole Baby Bay area for this dog's grave, but they literally found nothing again. There's literally so much information in this case, I could honestly go on forever. But now let's get into the theories of what happened and the suspects. The first theory, which I personally don't believe, but is definitely still a kind of strong theory, and a lot of people do believe, is that she drowned and Gary was telling the truth. A local fisherman actually said that the waters that they had apparently gone snorkeling in were extremely rough waters, and it would have been a kind of crazy idea to go snorkeling in these waters sober, let alone intoxicated. So if they had made the stupid decision to go into the water after drinking, it would have been an extremely stupid idea, and it would not be a surprise if something like that had happened to her if she had done this. And the theory goes along with what Gary said, is that, you know, they were both intoxicated, they were both, you know, drunk, they went into the sea, they realized they were out too far, especially him with his, you know, shoes on, and when he got out, obviously he turned around and the water must have pulled her under because she was too drunk and too weak to swim, which was why there was like no sign of struggle or anything like that, and she drowned. But to me, this doesn't really make a lot of sense, because the waiter said that she looked way too dressed up to go swimming, especially when you got a full face of makeup, something like that. I mean, I guess maybe if you're drunk, you wouldn't think about things like that, but I know me, I would never go swimming with a full face of makeup on and dressed up. Again, the other fact, like I said, about her boyfriend saying that she was really not into water sports, and you know, her family members also said that she wasn't into water sports and things like that. So all of that, and also secondly, I feel like there would have been some evidence that she drowned. Like, for Gary to say that she completely disappeared, to me, like, doesn't make sense. Like, even if they were out kind of deep, I feel like if she had drowned, like, they would have found something. Like, I'm not sure if that just like is me talking out my ass or not. I don't think she would have like disappeared into thin air. I mean, I think there would have been some sort of sign of struggle and evidence that she was drowning. I just feel like there would be some indication, you know what I mean? Also, something else that disproves this theory is actually by the same guy that said that the water, the same fisherman that said the water was so strong and it'd be a stupid idea to go swimming even if you know the water. He actually said he actually saw the couple, but he never actually saw them go into the water. He said he saw them walking on the beach, and then they went to leave, and he actually drove off with Robyn really dangerously and crazily, but they were never actually in the water. And he said later on he actually saw Gary by himself in the car and Robyn was nowhere to be seen. Then there's also another kind of statement that backed up this theory, that a lot of people believe that they had seen 2 sharks and a sea turtle in that kind of area of water, and she was never ever found alive because she drowned and she was eaten by a shark. Which leads me to my next theory, is that she was attacked by a shark. Again, I don't really believe this theory, but I think it is worth telling you guys anyway. The numerous amount of people, again, like I said, including the helicopters, some of the policemen and other people surrounding the area, said that they had seen 2 sharks, or like fins, swimming around the water, and also a giant sea turtle. And the theory goes again that what Gary said was true, and Robyn had obviously cut her foot on something in the water like Gary told authorities, and then when she got back in to go snorkeling with Gary, the smell of the blood had already attracted the shark. Another kind of addition to it, which again I don't know if makes any sense, but someone was theorizing it, is that the sharks would have made the water a lot more rougher if they were around. Gary was struggling to get out of the water, she could have been pulled down by a shark, and the shark could have eaten her, or the injuries that the shark could have made have been so bad that she could have been left for dead because of the injuries that were caused by this shark. But once again, I don't believe this theory at all. Firstly, because I think it'd be so obvious if a shark had literally killed someone in the area, like there would have been blood, body parts. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like a shark attack, there would definitely be like a shit ton of blood in the water, and there was literally no evidence of that. And I feel like he would have definitely seen the sharks himself, and if, you know, he had seen something something like this, he would have definitely told authorities that, because that would have just, you know, cleared his name instantly. You know, people were saying, you know, a shark could have dragged her out further, which is why they didn't see the body and things like that. I think it's a bit far-fetched. I feel like she just wouldn't disappear into thin air if something like that had happened, you know? So now for the only main suspect in this case is that her 50-year-old lover, Gary Giordano, killed her. Obviously, because this case is still ongoing, don't want to like put my opinions too far out there, but this to me is the most realistic theory, and it kind of makes total sense why people would think this. So like I said, the day after Robyn went missing, Gary was helping with these searches and, you know, helping the authorities and things like that, but apparently he returned to the grill and bar that they went to the day previous, and according to staff members, he seemed completely fine and really unfazed by the situation, and even a little bit chirpy. Gary was known to be a very violent man, and he had a history of domestic violence, and he actually had multiple restraining orders coming from other women back in the US. Also, the police were investigating his camera that he took on holiday with him, and the images that were found on his camera were apparently absolutely disturbing of Robyn. And according to sources, the pictures that were found were beyond pornographic, and they were disgusting pictures of Robyn, and there was no actual determination about when they were taken or anything like that, which is super terrifying kind of in itself. And Robyn's boyfriend Richard, that from the, you know, the boyfriend back home, actually said that she would never have consented to this in a million years. There were tons and tons of people and sources as well that said that he was super sketchy, and how everybody kind of seemed to just kind of get bad vibes from this guy. Like I said, even, you know, her roommate that kind of knew that she was going away with him, and some people on the island and things like that. And he also had a track record of asking young girls to come away with him, even though most of them, or all of them, I think, declined. And there was actually one police officer, I believe he was a police officer, that said that he was a horrible bastard or something like that, and I just don't think he was kind of wildly liked. In general, kind of just not known as like the nicest guy in the world. A few days after Robyn had been reported as missing, on August, Robyn's mother actually arrived in the country, obviously to help with the investigation, and obviously she needed to be there because her daughter was missing. And Gary actually tried to flee the country on this date, I think like 4 days earlier. I think he was supposed to leave on August the 9th, despite promising police that he would help with their ongoing investigation. So Gary was actually arrested at the airport on suspicion of murder of Robyn, and he was held there until November, but he was actually released as a free man because of insignificant evidence, which I think is honestly crazy. And according to a few sources and the court case, there was actually a video that had surfaced which shows Gary and Robyn in a heated argument, and him actually apparently, I think, either grabbing her by the back or the front of the throat and pushing her into an elevator. But there was no details that I could find of whether this was actually true, or whether it actually happened, or where it happened and things like that, or what time, to indicate anything, if it had any influence into the actual disappearance of Robyn. But apparently also Gary had a scratch on his throat, and obviously if this evidence was true and found, I'm really not sure why they didn't build a bigger case against him if this evidence was actually brought up in a court case, because to me it would all kind of add up then, which is absolutely insane to me. And even a policeman said that he knew that he definitely wasn't telling the truth, and that there were flaws in his story, and that he knew that he was lying about what was happened, they just weren't sure what had actually happened. And apparently his story kept changing and parts just didn't add up. And I think with all this evidence of Gary, I honestly think it's absolutely insane that they didn't keep him longer and like a bigger case against him, because it just seems so sketchy. And as he was like the last person to see her and things like that, and his story doesn't add up in places and things, then everybody is innocent until proven guilty and things like that. But I just think it's so insane. Like, there's a few theories about why Gary could or would have murdered Robyn. The first being that he could have seen the message that Robyn had sent to her boyfriend Richard at 3 p.m. saying that she loved him and that they were going to sort things out when they got back home. And he could have seen that, and out of jealousy or whatever, or they could have argued about this, which is, you know, the whole thing about him pushing her into an elevator. They could have had an argument at the beach, which is why he could have driven off angrily. An argument could have, you know, kick-started if something like this was true, and he could have got physical with her, since, you know, obviously he has a history of domestic violence, and he could have maybe either accidentally killed her or killed her out of anger, and then buried her in the island or put her somewhere out in the ocean, which is why the hour and the 45 minutes are missing, and then to cover his tracks. And it actually kind of makes a lot of sense, because apparently, according to Robyn's boyfriend back home, Richard, her Gmail account, when you know when someone's online, like they have like a little grey light coming up on their account, and apparently after she had been reported missing that her Gmail account was still active. So that means someone must have had access to her Gmail account in order for it to be online, which means that someone could have had access to the messages that she had sent her boyfriend back home. The other theory is that Gary killed Robyn for money. Again, this theory doesn't have a ton of information, but it is worth noting. Soon after Robyn's disappearance, actually 2 days after Robyn disappeared, Gary actually tried to claim £1.5 million from the insurance company that he had actually taken out on Robyn before they began the trip, which is super strange and obviously very, very either coincidental or not, which from what I believe the insurance company didn't actually end up paying despite his efforts to try to claim it. But according to Gary, he only tried to claim this money because that is what either like his lawyer or someone that was his advisor or something like that advised him to do. And obviously after that, if you have not seen it, I will link this down below, but Gary actually went on Dr. Phil and obviously he would have got money for that. And obviously on the Dr. Phil interview, he denied absolutely everything. And of course, if he is innocent, he would. And if he's not, obviously he's still going to claim that he's innocent because, you know, that's what he told people. And on the interview, he basically kind of made it out. It sounds really, really odd, but he kind of just made it out like, you know, she drowned, that's all that happened. Which obviously to some people can seem super, super sketchy because it's kind of just like, you know, she drowned, that's it. I do think it's super, super sketchy. And to me, if there was like, you know, someone that I had like an intimate relationship with that I genuinely really, really cared about, in my personal opinion, what I would not do is try to claim on their life insurance 2 days after they died. I would also not try to stop the investigation. Someone that you have an intimate relationship with, you're going to be regularly close with, and I just feel like you'd want people to keep searching, do you know what I mean? Also, after this, Gary actually did write a book about the whole experience, again, trying to prove his innocence. You're gonna get money off it, do you know what I mean? Like, people are gonna be interested in that book, whether they think you're innocent or not, just because they're interested. A lot of people said that whether he killed her or not, which obviously nobody knows whether he did or not, he was the type of person to try to make money out of this anyway. So whether, you know, she died by accident or whether she had just disappeared or things like that, because of the type of guy, the businessman that he was, he would have tried to make money out of this. To me, if someone that I was intimate with had died on holiday, I would not be writing books and claiming insurance on them. It kind of blows my mind. And the last theory about Gary also kind of ties into my next theory, that Robyn Gardner was a victim of human trafficking. Again, there is not a lot of theories to back this theory up. The only real evidence to kind of back this theory up is that Robyn Gardner went missing in the same, on August the 2nd, 2011, is the same exact Caribbean, Aruba town, the same area Natalie Holloway went missing in 2005. And one of the largest theories for Natalie's disappearance was that it was a result of human trafficking, and it's just super, super coincidental that they went missing from the same area. Other than that fact, it was just suggested by Richard, which, you know, is Robyn's boyfriend, thought maybe Gary had had something to do with this, and because there was like a lot of similarities between the two, so Natalie and Robyn, when I saw pictures of them next to each other, genuinely they look so alike. You know, they're both blonde, young, they just have like the same sort of look to them, and there was lots of like, you know, coincidence that were just very, very similar to each other, and people seem to think that they were trafficking the same type of girls, and people seem to think that Gary had something to do with this because he had like a track record of asking young girls to go away with him. Obviously, up until now, there is still not a lot of more evidence that has been discovered on Robyn's case, other than some human bones that were found on the island that were tested for Natalie Holloway and also Robyn, because it was believed to belong to like a Caucasian female, and they were tested and they were definitely not Natalie's, but once again, for the life of me, I could not find out whether they were tested positive for Robyn's. I'm assuming not, because I feel like there would have been like a big old bust about it. And actually, Gary was also back in the news, that he had actually been arrested a year later in May in 2012 for allegedly being found naked in the back of a Cadillac with another woman who was 45, and they were both arrested on indecent exposure. Other than that, I believe the investigation is still ongoing. They haven't really found anything, which again to me is absolutely crazy, how literally this young lady disappeared off the face of the earth, it seems like, and they've literally found nothing on her since that. Like, well, anything I couldn't find anyway, you know, please let me know down below and let everyone else know down below if they have. I still couldn't find anything on what's happened to the case since. Seems like it's all been kept very, very private. So that is all I have today for the case on Robyn Gardner. Really, really love doing these. They're super, super interesting. Let me know if you'd like to carry on doing these in the future. Like I said, please give me a thumbs up if you like this and comment down below if you really, really like this. And I will continue this series and, you know, mix it up with paranormal cases and also the unsolved mystery cases. Also, let me know any theories that you have of what could have happened to Robyn and any that I may have missed out on too. There was so much information on this, but also very little. It's really, really confusing. I hope I did okay for my first episode. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really, really hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in my next video. Bye guys.